6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Gens.
Here.
Supervisor Nudo.
Here.
Supervisor Brookhouse.
Here.
Supervisor Gama.
Here.
Supervisor Gaschke.
Here.
Supervisor Geertsen.
Here.
Supervisor Kirby. Here. Being member Ethan.
Here. Thank you. Number 2, an initial resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed 13,505,000 general obligation promissory notes for budgeted capital projects, including road and highway improvements.
Good evening, Greg Johnson from Mellors. Good to see everyone again. To accompany the resolution that's on your agenda, we prepared kind of our multi-year financing plan that's in the PowerPoint deck. I'll kind of walk through that and explain how that impacts the resolution that is on your agenda. So this time of year is typically when the Finance Committee and then the County Board considers resolutions to put the legal authority in place to finance 2026 capital projects. And when we look at the dollar amount for your CIP issuance for next year, we always look at what borrowing authority remains from prior resolutions authorized by the County Board and what new resolutions may be necessary to fund your capital projects in 2026. So for the CIP as it's laid out presently, there are a total of 6 initial resolutions that will be applied to legally proceed with borrowing authority for 2026 capital projects. There's only one new initial resolution, and that's the resolution that is on your agenda. The remaining resolutions are all were previously approved by the County Board. There is still borrowing authority remaining under those resolutions, and so those will be utilized to execute the 2026 financing plan. So on slides 3 and 4 of the presentation is the detailed listing of all the project costs that were provided to us by staff. And then there is a column that identifies which resolution the legal borrowing authority will be utilized to fund each of these projects. So that continues on to page 4 in terms of that detailed breakdown. So this is the detailed listing. There's $31,750,000 in total project costs. So if we take that list in terms of what you're anticipating to fund for projects in 2026, then we determine the amount of the new initial resolution that's necessary to fund those projects. So on slide 5 is you'll see the breakdown of how we take that project list and allocate it to the various resolutions to legally proceed with the financing of the projects. So you'll see across the top is a detailed listing of the resolution number and when it was adopted. So you'll see for this financing plan, there's resolution 2024-59, 2021-75, 2025-87, 24-60, 22-50, and 22-49. All existing resolutions that will be utilized to help finance these project costs in 26. And then the final column on the far right-hand side, that shows the dollar amount that we've identified for the resolution you're considering this evening. So as much of a financial component there is to this, it's really as much of a legal component as well to identify how you're going to proceed with legally executing the financing plan. On page 6 is a listing of the project costs that are anticipated to be funded over the next several years. So for 2026, the amount that you're anticipating issuing debt for is about $25.8 billion. And then we've identified just general targeted borrowing amounts from 2027 through 2034. And these borrowing amounts are identified to really accomplish 2 objectives simultaneously. So first is to achieve the county's goal of having the principal outstanding as of year-end 2022 through 2032 to reduce by 5%. So we'll show a chart in a few moments that shows you're in compliance with that objective. And second is to look at what a tax levy increase would be for debt that can fund this level of investment. And the answer is about going forward about $1 million per year increase in the levy for debt service based on these funding levels. On page 7 is just kind of the detailed breakdown of the amount that's anticipated to be financed for projects in 2026. And then finally, in terms of the initial resolutions, a summary of all the remaining resolutions outstanding is shown on page 8. So with the financing plan as it stands in place, borrowing authority will be eliminated for several existing resolutions that are in place. So 2024 59, 2021 75, 2025 87. The 26 financing plan will use up all the remaining capacity on those resolutions. Borrowing capacity still remains for the Human Services Building, the Ceremonial Courtroom project. I understand the 2026 financing will complete that project. So maybe some slight borrowing authority remaining on that resolution legally, but practically the project will be completed. Then there'll be some borrowing authority remaining for the CABA High Impact Fund and just some of your general resolutions for highway bridge improvements. So we track this with staff just to keep visibility on how much legal borrowing capacity is remaining. Several resolutions will fall off as this plan is executed. Now let's get into the financial analysis and the impact of the proposed 2026 and multi-year financing plan. We start with a summary of your existing debt service payments. So in the chart on page 9 on the far left-hand column, that's your total principal and interest payments for your existing debt outstanding. The county budgets several revenue sources to abate or offset those payments. Revenue from the city of Kenosha, Brookside, and then premium is money from prior debt issues that was deposited into the debt service fund that is used to pay interest expense. So you see we levy for debt service in the 2025 was about $20,453,000. We'll look at the impact of future financings in the next few slides. Pages 10 and 11 take all the project costs for 2026 and allocate them to the various resolutions for which the legal authority will be in place to finance the projects. All the debt service principal and interest for the 2026 notes will be repaid by the property tax levy. We're using a conservative interest rate at this time of 4%, higher than where current market conditions are presently, but it's a conservative estimate at this point in time. So you'll see on the last slide of the amortization schedule, page 11, the total off to the far right-hand side, total principal $25,860,000, estimated interest, and then the total estimated debt service for the 10 years for financing 26 projects. On the next page, a summary of levy supported debt. There'll be a clearer picture of this on the next slide, but this just kind of shows our work. We show your existing debt service levy on the far left-hand side, and then we show the gross principal and interest payments for the multi-year financing plan from 2026 all the way out to 2034. So to really kind of see the impact on the debt service levy, that's on the following page on page 13. Kind of brings that all together in a summary page. So on the far left-hand side is your existing levy for debt service. We show gross principal and interest payments for 2026 through 2034. And then we show your net debt service levy for existing and proposed debt all the way out through debt issuance through 2034. So your debt service levy for 2026 was increasing by about $850,000 per year. And then based on the borrowing amounts that were identified for future financings from 2027 through 2034, the debt service levy increase is just under $1 million per year based on that funding money. As I mentioned, one of the goals for the county is to see your principal outstanding from the end of 2022 to the end of 2032 be reduced by at least 5%. On page 14, we show compliance with that policy objective. There are certain components of debt service for legacy projects, South Pike River and the Ceremonial Courtroom that are kind of excluded from that calculation. But that shows how we are in compliance with that based on the 2026 and future funding levels all the way out to 2034. So when we're identifying what future amounts you can support in your CIP, this is one of the metrics that we're using to kind of determine what those levels could be going forward. The county for several years has had several debt metrics in its debt policy that we monitor to assure compliance. So those are summarized. First is the adjusted debt burden. Your policy says that should not exceed 0.8%. During the planning period, that decreases to 0.31% by 2034. The county's debt levy as a percent of your total expenditures should not exceed 15%. During the planning period, that percentage is highest at 9.54%. And then the tax rate for debt service should not exceed $1.50 per thousand. During the planning period, that declines to 70. These are also metrics that we evaluate, make sure that the multi-year plan accomplishes all of these longstanding debt policy metrics of the county. In terms of just the detail behind the calculations, that is shown on the next page, on page 16. This is kind of how we calculate the net principal outstanding, look at the county's total geo debt outstanding, and then back out debt related to past refundings, debt for the city of Kenosha debt, and Caba and Brookside. So this just kind of carries forward to the next slide, which is on page 17. That calculates all of those debt metrics that I summarized. So they're listed down below in the notes. This again shows what was in the summary slide, just shows the detail of our calculations and the counties in compliance with all three of these debt metrics. So to summarize the multi-year plan, it includes a total of $177,825,000 of projects financed from 2026 to 2034. The county's objective of paying principal outstanding from the end of 2022 to the end of 2032 is decreasing by at least 5%. And the debt service levy increase to fund that level of investment over the multi-year plan out to 2034. The levy increase is just under $1 million per year. So the action item that's on your agenda is the initial resolution, one resolution to kind of complete the execution of the 2026 financing plan. That also will need to be considered by the county board for their consideration as well. So that's the overview of the resolution and the multi-year plan.
Supervisor Gearston.
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of the initial resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $13,505,000, the GO promissory notes.
It's been moved by Supervisor Gearston, seconded by Supervisor Nudo. Any questions or comments on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you. Number 3, any remaining 2026 departmental division budget items? I do not know of any. Are there any from the committee or?
I have none.
Okay. Move on. All right, so at this point, I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget as we presented it and amended it. Supervisor Gearston.
So move with the amendments.
It's been moved by Supervisor Gearston, seconded by Supervisor Kirby to approve the budget as amended. Any questions or concerns on that? Supervisor Nudo.
Okay, during this budget, I think by the way, I want to congratulate everybody being involved. It's a good budget. I'm definitely not 100% agreeable with everything in there, but I never was. My goal is to have at least like 80% of it. However, at this time, I have more than 80% that I like it. But there were 3 amendments that I made. I think they were good amendments. I didn't even get a second to even discuss about those amendments. For their reason, I'm going to vote no. I hope by the time it comes to the county board floor, I can change my mind or find out more about it. But as of tonight, I'm going to go against it.
Okay, anything else?
No.
So I'll take this opportunity as well to thank our staff and all the people, administration that put this together. It was a very clean budget, very little discussion or amendments. That's not because we didn't read it or do our due diligence. It's because it was good. So to Supervisor Nudo's point, does everybody believe in everything that's going on with the budget? Well, I would hope not, or we'd all be robots. So, at some times you have to just, take your vote, move on and accept the whole as being a good project. I mean, back in the day, I voted against the sheriff's trucks time and time again, but did I vote against the sheriff's budget? No. So we all have our ways to do things, but I think this was a good budget. I commend everybody who put the time and effort into this and, good job. So with that, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay. Moving on to number 4, policy resolution 2026 Kenosha County budget. The budget resolution.
Okay, I'll handle that part. So everyone should have a copy of the draft of the budget resolution that was sent out. And, just housekeeping wise, new language is shown in red. Language that's shown in red with a line through it are strike throughs. I will touch on some of those. Most of those have to do with items that are specific to a certain year, or they were figures from last year's budget, and that's why they're being changed. So I'll start going through the additions to the budget resolution. And we'll start with page 2. So on line 23 of page 2, even though it's not marked in red, I'm proposing to add some words that were omitted from the draft that you see. It says, whereas the county budget includes organization charts, FTE counts, and I'd like to add the words in wage schedule in the budget.
And what comes from?
The wage schedule. So the wage schedule is found in appendix. So you guys have an idea which one we're talking about. I think it's appendix A.
Mhm.
Appendix A. So that lists every approved FTE in pay grade in the county. And it, the numbers that shown there reflect 2% increase to the minimum, midpoint, and maximum. Those are what's reflected in the budget that we've gone through for this past week. And it also includes any adjustments, any added positions, any deleted positions, or any reclassifications or changes to the actual position grade. Just wanted to point that out and add that language to make sure that we're including that appendix as part of the discussion.
What was it, the wage?
And wage schedule. So line 23 on page 2. Otherwise, it was just hanging out there.
Does anybody have a problem or want to discuss that? Okay, we'll just put it in there. Okay, continue on.
All right, so to get to the new language, on page 2, line 27, there are 3 whereases having to do with grants, and the corresponding be it therefore resolved is on page 11, line 39. And it has 2 be it further resolved. So to describe what this new language is proposing. Every year, there are a number of grants that are basically the same year after year. The dollar amounts may change and the timing of the approvals of them may change. A lot of times, those dollar amounts are known when we're doing the budget, putting the budget together. And instead of guessing what that number would be, sometimes it's something that we ask for, and sometimes we're just allocated dollar amounts. So those come through as a separate resolution the following year. It goes through the process of the finance committee and then the county board. One example that Scott Schutze brought up yesterday having to do with one of his land information grants. He has it every year. Has to be used for the same thing. He doesn't know if he's going to get it for sure or not. He doesn't know the dollar amount. So the language here is proposing that in those instances, those specific instances, that instead of having to bring it through the entire process through the
Yeah.
county board and to the committee and the county board, we're proposing language that would allow administration to compile information on those grants, which include, as noted in the, be it therefore resolved on page 11, we would report to Finance Administration Committee the grant type, grant award amount, the expected expenditure purpose, and the required budget modification. So we would report that to the Finance Committee instead of going through that normal process.
How we're gonna do these is when he brings up these things in red, any discussion on it will happen at that time. So
I'm good with
we'll move on if everything is okay.
I just have one question.
Super
So-
Kirby.
Does this, so this only applies to things that are completely levy neutral, right? Like if there's potential ongoing costs that would still come through us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I want to know.
These would be grant allocations and we're going to use it to offset expenditure.
Okay.
And the example that you used with Scott Schutze yesterday was
Mhm.
perfect, because Scott gets this grant, he finds out about it after the budget's been submitted, doesn't know year by year, so he never puts it in his budget, and it all has to be expended, so he gets money in and then money out. So levy neutral, but just be a reporting item.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, seeing none, moving on.
Okay, so a couple lines below that, we have a reference to modifications to county employee handbook on line 38. So the appendix B, right after the includes 3 items that proposals that HR proposed for the handbook revisions. There is here to explain the purpose of those language changes, if anyone has any questions regarding it.
They look good to me.
Line 36, back to the page.
Any questions or comments on these wages?
Handbook,
Yeah.
handbook,
It wasn't in red at 136, that's why.
Oh, okay.
appendix B.
All right. Well, no, I mean, the handbook's fine. Yeah, okay.
It was just 3, it was only 3 items this year.
That's why you're pointing to that, because I was down by the red.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If there's no questions, I'll go on to the next one. On line 40 of page 2, it refers to the setting of salaries for public officials, for county board, county executive, county sheriff, and the clerk of courts. I have old language in there that's improper. County clerk of circuit court, proposing to change that to clerk of courts, just to clean that up, so that's correct. So that is referring to attachment C. In that chart that's attached to part of the overall budget resolution, it shows the proposed increases for these elected positions. Individuals that are holding those positions, there's items that are shown in green, that's the already established rates. And then the ones that are in yellow are the ones that are being contemplated as part of the resolution. There are no questions on that. Go on to the next. On line 43 of page 2, there are 3 whereases having to do with the request to include the deputy associations bargaining agreement as part of the overall budget. Page 12, line 1. It refers to the Deputies Association. And the original language referred to it as the labor agreement, proposing adding a few other words here, changes as outlined. And as well, just to make it clear that The attachment D doesn't include the entire labor agreement, just the changes.
Okay.
That are shown in red. So if you go to attachment D, those are the changes that are being proposed. Part of the agreement with the deputy association. If there's any questions specific to that language changes or anything regarding that, again, that HR director is here for any questions on that.
Any questions or comments on any of that? Seeing none,
Okay,
please continue.
the next group of language I would refer the committee to would be on page 4. Starting on line 16. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's about 7 whereases having to do through line 39, and the corresponding be it therefore resolved is on page 13. Line 37. There's 3 be it. So the purpose of this language is to allow for 2 support positions to be added to the Kenosha County budget using county general fund reserves in the instance in which the district attorney's office retains a full complement of assistant district attorney positions. As we established the other night, those are state positions. And these 2 proposed support staff would support not only the current staff, but as it states in the 4th whereas, the state allocated 2.5 new assistant district attorney positions as part of their 2025 to 2027 budget. These support staff would be for that. Currently, those ADAs are not, there is not a full complement of those. And it is for that reason that we're proposing this language to show that when that becomes fully staffed, and the language shows that at a minimum of 2 months. When that happens, then that would trigger the approval of these 2 support staff. One position is a victim witness specialist and the other is a paralegal. The approximate cost of those 2 positions is $160,000 for the full year, correct? The other item I'd like to point out too is as part of the verification process would obtain reports from the state that would show the staffing level to confirm that those that the ADAs are fully staffed. With that, I'll take your.
Okay, I will talk about this because I have a problem with it. I want DA Solis to succeed, and I want to support his office to the best of our ability. That being said, I don't believe in taking money to pay people out of general fund reserves. Okay, I think this should be part of the budget or come to us with a budget resolution when needed. I'm very concerned that I asked the DA the other night what the staff was currently, and it was 12.5. So before he took over, the staff was not, the DA and the ADAs were 19. And we had county staff supporting them in the number of 22.5. 22.5 county staff supporting 19 ADAs and DA. Okay. Now we have 12.5. We still have those 22.5 county positions supporting them. So we've got 22.5 of our people supporting the 12.5 DA and ADA. I wonder what they're doing, whether that they're, and it breaks down to 12 paralegals, 2 legal secretaries, 5 victim witness specialists, a half admin, one victim witness coordinator, one office administrator, and one investigator. So that we already have that in place. Now, I mean, with the backlog and what's going on there, it's the pressure on those county employees is heavy. So I am gonna, I mean, obviously open this up to questions and comments, but if nobody else makes a motion, I want to pull all of this out. And I will leave in there the thing about the reporting, so when he's fully staffed or staffed to some level, I would be willing to say, if you get up to 17, 18, not even the 21 and a half that you're allowed, and you're fully staffed for a couple of months, come to us with a budget resolution, and I'll be the first one to support putting those positions in there and finding it from the budget, not from reserves or the general fund. So I want to help you. I want you to have those positions, but I don't think we should do it this way. We don't do it this way with other departments. The only other thing that if somebody wants to throw a precedent out there would be Brookside, but revenue was tied to that. Like the census was tied to the number of beds to the census, then you get another RN and somebody else. Okay, but there was revenue to pick that up. Again, I want you to succeed. I want you to be fully staffed or even staffed so that we're chugging along. And I will be willing to help down the road. This is not my answer to helping you. So those are my comments. If I just wanted to give everybody a background of what I'm thinking. And at this time, we'll open it up to questions and comments. Supervisor Gearston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gearston, what did you say?
You want me to sit up there or not?
You can, if there's questions directed to you, certainly. Yeah,
Thank you,
certainly.
Mr.
I have no
Chairman.
problem with that.
I was going to comment, but I also am supportive of our district attorney joining us. So you're the chair, so you get to manage that. But I support this language. One of the advantages we have to becoming a AAA government is that we have reserves that we can use to manage the county strategically when we need to do that. And I can't think of a time and place when we use that in a better way, more strategically than in this circumstance. Whatever we can do to help the district attorney get up to full staffing, and I would like to do. This budget has many times where we strategically are using reserves to help us manage the county better. It will not hurt us financially. It will not create a material hole for us. And in the long run, by helping us manage the county better, it actually probably will help us improve our financial condition. So, for example, if we can help our DA get up to where he needs to be with his staffing, it'll help improve us financially in many ways, directly and indirectly. I mean, you can go through the budget and see how we strategically use reserves to help us improve help us manage the county in a better way. For example, we hire for when someone's going to retire, we will hire their replacement so that they can get acclimated to that position over time and be prepared for the succession planning. So that's just one of many examples. I think this is an example. I think this is one, there's many things we could do. I think this is one small thing we can do, and I think it's critical to help the DA to get this done. So I will be supporting this language, and I hope the committee will help and support the DA and help the DA to protect the citizens of Kenosha County. And I yield at this time.
Supervisor Noodle.
On the comment that you had made before, and I hope I can remember those numbers right, that I believe that we have 22 right now,
22 and a half.
22 and a half, and right now 12 and a half, the ADA plus the, including the district attorney. However, our goal for everybody, not just the district attorney, but I guess everybody at this table or all over, is to be able to increase and reduce the workload that they have now, because it's pretty much 12 people are doing the work of 20, whatever they're supposed to be, 19 and a half, plus we got 2 new ones. coming up. So, and if the state approved, the state already approved that, which then means they believe that we need those, and we're gonna need. And, the 22 county, between the paralegal secretaries and whatever. I think even though there is only 10, 11 attorneys in there, they're probably doing more work now than when there were 18, 19 attorneys in there. Because they got extra duties, I suppose. You know, I'm not familiar how it works, but right, they do more legwork for the attorneys. And they're gonna do even more than before. And hopefully, we're gonna fill the vacancy as soon as possible. That will be the call of everybody. So I feel that it is okay to fund them now. I also agree that the money should not come from the reserves, but it should be on the budget itself. And if it's not needed, I'm sure that the DA is not just gonna put a couple extra people there just to say, oh, I got the money, I'm gonna put it there. I'm sure it's gonna look at that. But the money should be appropriate now with the budget instead of taking it out of, so I don't know. We did approve the budget, really, just before. I don't know if that could be amended or, I don't know, and that's what the question.
There's also,
In other words, if I would like to amend that now, to leave the position like we have now, but for the money to put it on the budget, and not, on, taking the money.
I would defer to the corporation council, but I would think, any amendment to the budget now would probably be done on the phone.
That would be my thought as well.
So next week.
Okay, so next, well, then I will probably make that amendment, but I'm all for to keep it, I do believe that you mentioned something before. We want to keep those numbers in there. If he needs it, if we don't need it, oh, well, but at least it's got the option that we need it. And we don't use the money, it's there, maybe we can use it for other things. So it's there. Those are my comments.
Supervisor Kirby.
So just to maybe, to agree with, what Supervisor Kentz and Supervisor Nuda said, I have no problem with adding these 2.5 employees, particularly once things are fully staffed. I don't like committing general fund money to that. Like Supervisor Nudo, I would rather see it in the budget right up front, maybe include language where, you know, those particular budget funds within the budget, the hiring of those positions is contingent upon being fully staffed. But at least it's in the budget. We're not saying, okay, we're just gonna use our general funds for this. Because general funds, we should use that for emergencies, not as a matter of course. And again, I would also be okay with a budget modification coming forward later on when things are fully staffed. Yeah, I'm not against adding the positions. I don't like committing general fund money to that. I'm done.
So, I mean, I don't think that by approving this, we're helping him get fully staffed. That to me, I don't understand the argument of that. As a matter of fact, I even made it easier on him that he doesn't need to get fully staffed and he can come to us with a budget resolution. So I want to help him. I want him to be fully staffed, but I'm not even saying he has to be. He could get to 17 or 18 for a consistent period of X number of months, come before us with a budget resolution like every other department does. And I would support that. So I'm not trying to keep two positions out of the DA's office. Okay, and by us approving this, it doesn't help him staff his ADAs. So I just think that, you know, I don't think this belongs here. I don't think it should come out of the general fund. I don't think that is a precedent we want to set and just say, I mean, I asked Barna a couple meetings ago, weren't we over 30% with the general fund? Yes, we were, but circumstances have forced it down. And I just don't want to keep forcing it down and setting precedents that do this. I want to support you. I want you to be, I care about the taxpayers of Kenosha County and victims and getting the caseload brought down. I do. but I don't see this as being the way to do it. So, Supervisor Nudo.
Just to follow up on that, I think it would be easier, maybe not to get DAs there, but I think it would be a lot easier by knowing if it's already evident there that the two position or 2.5 positions are there, that when he needs, he can just go and fund. He doesn't have to come to the county board or anything. So I would like to see something set now. The only thing is by moving them from here to put it in the budget itself. Now, again, I understand, well, what said it cannot be done today. What about, my other question would be, what about if we leave everything as it is right now? I will commit myself to bring a motion on the board floor to change from, the money needed, basically, for committed is to 2.5 positions, to take it out of the move from the general fund, instead of general fund, we'll just put it in the budget itself. That could be done in that way. Correct? So in that way, pretty much, we'll see what the board does, and then if not, then, I think that would be a lot easier, and that would be the DA a little bit, I wouldn't even say flexibility, but ease of mind that he doesn't have to come and say, oh gee, let's say next month or whatever, he's able to get 4 or 5 attorneys there when he gets there and say, oh, now I gotta go to the board to make sure that this position is filled. So in that way, he's already got it, and that's it. You know, we don't have to work. And if he doesn't need it, I'm sure it's not gonna put them there just to spend money.
The problem with that is that then we're taking money now, putting it in the budget and holding that money for when that occurs. And it hasn't been shown that that's gonna happen. So I don't want to budget that way either. That's what budget modifications are for. So Supervisor Gearston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I've listened to the argument against this language, and I want to say that I just want to be clear that I've heard no argument that overcomes the rationale, the solid rationale for keeping this language as it is in order to support the district attorney. So what I'm saying is I've heard no argument that holds water. So for example, we talked about general fund and taxing the people for money that we may or may not need. So we're talking about putting a tax on a tax bill on the IFCOM when we already have a practice of not doing that and not overtaxing. And I already gave an example of that, which is when we hire for succession planning. So we're already doing that, and it's a fine practice. It's a good practice. It's a practice that anticipates something that may happen. We use reserves so that we're not double taxing or overtaxing, but then we're able to do what we need to do from a managed standpoint without double taxing. And then we talked about, can we help the district attorney? Yes, we can't wave a magic wand, go to the state, go to what's happening with hiring lawyers today and get that office filled. But once we do start to get that office filled and we have the district attorneys on staff, they're going to need to hit the ground running, and we want to be fully staffed with all of their support so that they can do what they need to do once we get that thing staffed. And there's lots of other arguments as to why this is a solid policy and will help the district attorney. I believe it's good policy, and I will support the policy that as presented in this these initial resolution documents. And with that, I yield.
Supervisor Kirby.
So I have a question. I'm not quite sure who can answer this. Have we ever funded positions directly out of the general fund as part of the budget process before?
In this way, with a goal to hit, is that what
Yeah.
you're asking?
Without revenue tied to it?
We've done temporary, like as Supervisor Gertson pointed out, when we have succession planning and we have overlap.
Mm-hmm.
HR director was hired, there was a 6-month overlap. That was one use of that.
I can give another.
but not
example.
like permanent positions.
I can give another.
Well, that's okay. She's got the floor. So.
Yeah. But have we, I mean, these would be intended to be permanent positions, right? So we're not thinking they're just gonna be here for 2026. They should also be there for 2027.
No, but if I could clarify, I believe when this language was proposed, the goal was to offer the support to the DA when he gets fully staffed, because when he gets there, he's gonna have a larger staff than he would have had without the additional 2.5 positions that the state granted. So it was to give him that option for 2026, when he reached that goal, that we would fund it with reserves, but in 27, they would be added to the budget. They would be part of the budget presentation for 27, because he would already be fully staffed and would have that need. It wasn't hire temporary employees, it was hire permanent employees with the goal of putting them in the budget in 27, because that goal had been met. And if that goal is not met in 26, then there's no funding of those positions, but the conversation would occur again in 27.
And is there any reason why we couldn't treat this like other similar circumstances where we do a budget modification?
Certainly an option.
I would completely support bringing these people on, and like Chairman Gens said, even if it's not fully staffed. If you get to 17 or 18 ADAs and you need those 2 additional positions, I would be on board with that. I would make the motion myself. I just do not like the way we're doing this. I want it to be upfront and in the budget and very transparent.
Supervisor Gearston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like the way we're doing this. So, one reason, there's a bunch of reasons why we would do it this way and not bring it in as a budget resolution. One is because it takes a 2/3 vote to amend the budget. We know this is happening. We know we want to support the DA. We can do this up front now with a simple majority and adopt it in the budget. Another example that the finance team would agree with me on is that we hire I remember when we were hiring the jailers, we phased that in when we built the new jail, and we hired some jailers knowing that we would have to hire many more jailers later and increase the levy as we were building a jail. Another example is we will hire staff for a partial year and then put the rest of the levy in the next year. And there's other examples. So this, I don't know why we're addressing this as an unusual circumstance. This is something we've done many times. We're anticipating it. I think this helps the DA get the important job done that they need to do. Again, we may want to onboard a couple of staff in the next year, but again, we can analyze that, and the DA may say, "Oh, I am able to survive without having to add the extra staff." So after evaluating it, and he gets the office up to speed, he may come back and say, we don't need to put that levy in. Maybe we will put the levy in, but why tax people now today when we don't need to do that? It's a small amount of reserves. It's a good way to strategically plan it. If it's one little thing we can do to help the DA, let's do it. So I yield.
Supervisor Vice Chair Gashby.
So the way I see this discussion is all of us are in favor of providing the DA's office with the support that his team needs. So that's not the question. None of us are questioning whether or not these additional positions should be added when needed. But the way I see it is we're discussing a procedural question, how we should get to that point. And, there's kind of about 3 different options. Either one, leaving it as it is, as Supervisor Gearston is advocating for. Another, as Supervisor Nudo has mentioned, next week, making a modification to the budget, or I should say an amendment to the budget next week, and funding it now. As Supervisor Gearston was saying, that could be perceived as overtaxing the citizens. A third option would be what Supervisor Gens has mentioned, the idea of having the DA's office come to us, like other departments do when they have needs mid-year, and propose a modification. And so at that point, we wouldn't be overtaxing our citizens, but we'd also be very open to the idea of adding the staff as needed. So philosophically, I would agree that, but that planning to fund these positions from the reserves in this way is not best practice. There might be some analogies to, things that we've done in the past, but I think in this particular situation, I would support the idea of eliminating this language and encouraging the DA's office to come with a budget modification in the coming year when you get to the point of needing it. Thank you.
Is that a motion?
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to eliminate this language and therefore be it resolves at the end with the understanding that we come forward with a budget resolution when needed. Questions or comments on that amendment?
Okay, I'm gonna amend it. I believe that we would come in with budget modification. We're gonna need 2/3 of the votes, which I think it's, I'm not saying that's not possible, but it's always harder. And it's gonna put more. It's something they don't need it to do it. He might need the 2 extra people now, even though we don't have enough ADAs, because those people can help the attorneys in doing a lot of the legwork. I'm not an attorney, I don't work in an attorney's office, but I know, and the DA can correct me if I'm wrong, but usually usually the paralegals, secretaries, whatever, they can do a lot of research work for the attorneys, which then they will have more time. And I believe the job that they're doing now with 11, 12 attorneys that they have in there, it's what they were doing with 16, 17 attorneys before.
19.
Or 19. And one of the reasons I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong at any time, is that maybe the paralegals, because they don't have an attorney assigned to them where they do all their work, they can do some extra resources, because a lot of it is doing resource work, and bring it to the attorney to put it on their desk instead of the attorneys to just go in and look at 20 books or 20, whatever. So I think, as far as I'm concerned, we should do it now. I don't like to do it through the reserve. I think it's wrong to do it through that, but we should do it by putting it on the budget, and that's what I said. Since we cannot change it tonight, we'll limit it as it is. I will make the motion at the budget to change it. And if he doesn't, it stays in the way it is, but to go in when he needs it to come in, it's a long time. First of all, it's not gonna be done overnight. It might take a couple months before we can make a budget amendment by the time it goes through all the channels to the boards, to the committees, but to the board. So I think that's the way to do it. Thank you.
DA Solis, you can respond to anything he just said since he opened it up to, correct me if I'm wrong. You might want to correct him.
The paralegals in my office work super hard, and after the election, none of them left. One ended up leaving due to the fact that she, I think, was on medical leave, and then she left because she wanted, I guess, to work from home or be a stay-at-home mom. Another paralegal that left is that she got a different job. She got a better job. I think she was teaching. We had no problems filling the paralegal positions. The paralegals in my office do work hard, and they know how to do their job pretty well. They assist the assistant district attorneys a lot. My paralegal helps me a lot too, as well as the other paralegals. The victim witness specialists, they work super hard also. They do provide a lot of resources for our victims. They provide a lot of information to the victims, especially with going to court, making sure that they're getting restitution or making sure that they're heard in court. Those 2 positions, I appreciate the fact that everyone here indicates that they want to help me and they want to see me succeed and stuff, and I really appreciate that. But it's not about me, it's about the people of Kenosha County. I'm not going to be on this position forever. 20 years from now, I may not be in this position. I'm not going to be in the position, God has planned for us, but those 2 positions are needed. Even whoever my successor is, those positions are going to they're gonna get needed regardless. So I know right now we're at about 12 and a half ADAs. We do have 2 accepted offers, but they don't graduate till, one in December and the other one graduates in May, but they do have accepted offers. So we're getting there where we need to get there, at least with staff wise. Even if we had 19 ADAs or we were full staffs, let's say like last year, I would still say that that office needs more support staff, especially victim witness staff. Victim witness staff are very well, what you call it? They're very overworked. Just because they're covering a whole bunch of branches and a whole bunch of cases. There was a big backlog of cases when I took over in January 6th. We've been trying to push a lot of those cases to resolve, and we resolved a lot of those cases. Other than some, I know I mentioned this before, I don't think it was this committee, it was a different committee. A lot of the backlog cases that I have that are homicides and more of the serious sexual assaults have been pending for like 3 to 4 years. They never were resolved back then. So now all of a sudden they come into my administration. So now I have to deal with those homicides that happened about a few years ago. This year alone, and knock on wood, we've only had 1 homicide, and it was a homicide that happened in January. That homicide, meaning like intentional homicide, that homicide was not a gun homicide. That homicide was a homicide that was done with a knife. And thankfully, we haven't had any gang violent homicides recently. We've had motor vehicle homicides, unfortunately, but I'm here for any questions if anyone has any questions.
Okay, I mean, I find it interesting that 19 ADAs use this number of people to support them for all those years, 22 and a half. 19 used it, and now we've got 12 and a half. I don't doubt these people are overworked and do a great job. I don't. And to just say we need 2 more when we really need to get the ADA number up. I mean, if we need 2 more people in there, then put it in the budget. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that because that'll be budget numbers now. I mean, I don't want to fund it out of the reserves. I just don't. So, you know, I mean, I don't think that, I mean, I resent having somebody tell me that I'm not trying to help the district attorney get fully staffed or help the constituents of our county. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to be fiscally responsible. And this number of workers helped 19 DAs. Okay, now there's 12 and a half. So they're doing extra work. I want him to be up there, and my idea is even more helpful than supporting this because he has to be fully staffed. I told him to bring it to the finance committee when you're not even fully staffed, and we'll look at it. I mean, I think that is the way to go. So, I mean, you could tell me we've done this in the past and this is the way to go. I'm looking at this and I just don't see this as the right way to do it. So I will be supporting Vice Chair Gashke's motion, and Supervisor Kirsten, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think I've made my view clear on this, and I, again, have heard all the argument. None hold water. I'll even say they're counterintuitive. This is a best practice. We're from having so many budgets, looked at so many budgets, having a circumstance, recognizing it, reporting it, putting it in the budget, recognizing it up front and being transparent about it. This is a best practice. This language, removing it would be a substandard practice. I agree with the gentleman from the 12th when he agrees that this is a sound practice and a good use of reserves. And I will not be supporting the amendment to the budget. I will support the language as is.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we have a motion on the
Roll call.
We have a motion on the floor and roll call has been asked. So please call the roll and we'll vote on removing this language.
Supervisor Gens,
Aye.
Supervisor Nudo.
No.
Supervisor Goodson,
No,
Supervisor Brookhouse,
Yes.
Supervisor Gama,
No.
Supervisor Gashke,
Aye.
Supervisor Kirby.
Yes.
It passes 4-3.
That language is removed, as is the language in the back. Please continue.
The next language I'd like to hear the committee to would be on page 7. That's a strike through that has to do with the language regarding Brookside. Achieving their census to get those positions. On the bottom of page 8 and the first 14 lines on page 19 are the whereas language. The corresponding be it therefore resolved is on page 19. Line 1 through 8. So what this language has to do is a few years back, we received just shy of $1 million of funds as part of the Monsanto company settlement regarding PCBs, environmental hazard type chemicals. At that time, we, the county board accepted those funds. A subsequent resolution was proposed for $431,000, thank you. Resolution 123 in April of 2024 for specific projects that complied with the required use of these funds. This language that is being proposed is proposing that the balance of those funds to be used in a like manner for the same purposes, but instead of having it go through the committee process to then have Public Works do the work, the legwork, to determine what projects would comply with the language for the balance of these funds, and then they would report to the Finance Committee each step of that process as they go through it, rather than having to piecemeal it for the balance of the funds that are available. With that, I'll take any other questions.
Any questions or comments on that? Any problem with that? Okay, please continue.
Continuing on page 9, line 16 through line 36 are the whereases. And the be it therefore resolved corresponding is on page 19, lines 10 through 17. So this language pertains to per diems. As the county board knows, there's a number of boards and commissions that are members on those boards are comprised of not only county board supervisors, but members of the public. Some of these boards and commissions allow for per diems and mileage related to that. So the language here is requiring, as shown on page 19, is requiring that the chair of the committee or board would approve the payment of the per diem. If a member of a different committee or board would attend those meetings and request per diem, it would be at the discretion of the chair of that committee. That I'll take any questions.
Supervisor.
And all the points here, but Corporation Council can help me with that whole thing.
Supervisor Nudo.
I believe you say that, the decision will be made by the chairman, the board chairman, or the committee chair.
The committee chair.
Okay, well, I don't like that. I don't know how to change it. Because, if it's the committee chair, what about if the committee chair is going, so now I'm going, I have to get to this meeting and, therefore I gotta get it together.
My understanding, and Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong. The commissions and boards that get per diems for the meetings that they attend for their commission or their board. Board of Adjustment, Civil Service, they get their per diems when they attend those meetings. This language says sometimes they might be called upon to attend something else, like maybe Civil Service might have to go to a judiciary and law meeting. If they are invited to go to that meeting by the chair of the committee or by the chair of the board, they would be entitled to that per diem.
Or the county executive.
Or the county executive. They would be entitled to that per diem for that extra meeting, for those extra meetings they might attend if asked to attend them.
Okay. But let's say, for instance, as an example, I usually this always accept. You pick the Civil Service Board, I'm gonna pick up Brookside because I'm more familiar with that. Okay, Brookside, the people from the public, they get a per diem when they attend the meeting or whatever. Now, when we have, for instance, a meeting, like the budget meeting, the board of Brookside really doesn't have to be there or whatever, but they come here. Well, do they get the per diem? And who decides for them that they don't have to come here? Because usually, they're not expected to be here, or even at the Human Services Board. Because we already voted, went through, And again, I'm using that as an example because they're more familiar with that than the rest of the committees. So who decides that?
The intent of the language, and obviously the committee can make whatever changes. they want,
Okay.
But the intent of the language was if a member of the Brookside Board of Trustees on their own initiative comes to a budget meeting,
Right,
that is not eligible for per diem. But if the chair of the finance committee says, I'd like you to show up at the budget meeting in case there are questions about Brookside budget, that would be eligible for per diem.
not the chairman of the subcommittee.
Not the chair of the body that would get per diem. The chair of either the county board or
Or,
county executive or the
Okay.
chair of the body holding the meeting that the individual was invited to.
okay, I'm fine with that then. I just wanted to make sure to clear that. Okay,
That makes sense to me.
yeah.
They have to be invited. to
And
get a per diem.
yeah, and I'm okay with that.
Okay. Any other
Just clarify
questions?
what the definition of a quote official meeting unquote is.
Okay,
Any other questions, comments on that?
Okay. Continuing on page 9, there's a few whereases that's a strike through, that's language having to do with ARPA funds and the Kenosha Fisheries Restoration Foundation taken care of as of last year. So going on from page 9,
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say, can I, if I can have the floor,
You can.
on the fisheries, that's pretty cool. That was good thing to do.
Yeah. it did work.
That worked good, and that I yield.
That was much needed. Because Edelweiss off our beach. I was on that, so
Edelweiss?
whatever those little things are that would.
Edelweiss is on the beaches?
I don't know, whatever these little fish are that came up and I couldn't
October.
take-
Alewife, right?
couldn't take my kid. Whatever. they-
Alewife.
Eaton Committee, I think,
Alewives.
hey,
Whatever, that's what I
I
said.
agree.
They smell terrible.
I think our chairman is hitting the head off of too many alewives.
The little fish, okay? Quit trying to sidetrack me when I'm on a roll. All right, continue. Yeah, yeah, that owl just got me all, he's all over.
Right, starting on page 10, so the dates have been changed from last year to make sure that we've got the proper dates in there for 2025. It includes a levy amount on line 26, so that that will reflect the three changes that were approved as part of the committee's recommendations this week. There's an amount in there having to do with the apportionment related to the library board change in there.
Ask a question.
You certainly may, Supervisor Nerdigan.
So Randall's gonna be in the, county library system first time, coming out of the community library system.
Correct.
So this says that money there, now the $2,197,162,
Yeah.
which about $192,000 of it is from Randall. Gets apportioned, from the town. Now, how does that money get back into that community library?
I don't know how the behind the scenes works. I'm not sure exactly how the community library gets their funding. What I do know is that what is levied by the county, we're given an apportionment percentage for those municipalities that don't participate in another library, so that now includes Randall, and that will appear on their property tax bill as the
No,
library from the
we've
county.
got that, but I'm sure that money has to circulate back around too. We don't know how that happened.
With the treasurer, because if the treasurer is collecting the phone, if they pay the bill.
What we collect on behalf of the library system, that's part of that $2 million number you said, that goes to the library. They request it in installments, there is an agreement, it's paid twice a year
that's
for
how-
whichever component it is. They are the ones who pay the community library, I believe, for usage at the community library. That is how that is tracked, that those payments go back and forth based on usage.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the budget that's in the budget book shows that's an expense. that we
Yeah, that's
pay out.
$13,000 less than we paid this year.
Yeah.
And there's a incentive with this, and I wish we could get it changed. Is it's based off of the mill rate and not off of per capita. So when you look at Randall, it's half the population of Twin Lakes. We pay, they don't pay twice what we pay to be in that library system, which is, I guess, why the board felt that you're overcharging Randall. So, but then we don't get the same courtesy when it becomes, this is not to do with tonight, but we don't get the same courtesy when it comes to representation on the board. We don't get the extra people. That goes by population. So we need to get the state to turn yourself around. But, so it's actually gonna be on use. So it's gonna, how many people walk in that door using the library? That's where they get paid back. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and it's like last year's numbers are
Sure.
determine what this
Sure.
year's levy amount is. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
And that was a different, that's a. Forward. So the only other, language that I'd like to work through, so on page 21, this is the budget summary that represents the entire budget book. So that general purpose levy dollar amount that's shown there, that does not include the three adjustments that were made by the committee over the course of this week. And includes the increase of the 40,000 revenue in the circuit courts budget and the additions of the two $10,000 amounts in the human services budget expenditure. So it'd be a net $20,000 reduction from that levy amount that's shown here. On page 22, this is an area that we usually don't have a lot of language changes, but this year we did some cleanup. And in my opinion, was overdue some housekeeping and some cleanup. So on page 22, we have a process in which when we close the books at the end of the year, we settle up any deficits. And then there's what I call umbrellas, which the different divisions fall under, and those are umbrellas represented in the budget. The language that we had there just said all divisions underneath executive and Department of Finance, and it didn't specify which divisions. My preference was to list all those specific so that it's crystal clear which divisions and departments fall under which umbrella. On page 23 starts a reorganization of all the language that we had there. It was a multi-year accumulation of a number of different, appropriation type language. We took all that language and now we've grouped them in by departments and divisions, so it's easy for anyone to find any language that's specific to sheriff's department. Go to number 2, there it is. The language that's shown there in red, that's taking a specific instance in which there's one personnel appropriation line item in the non-departmental. We'd like to include that as part of the overall county budget's personnel appropriation for that year-end cleanup.
Supervisor Nordigan.
I just noticed that. I pointed that out.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
2A and 2B.
yeah,
We'll fix that.
to be or not to be.
Yeah. That's the question. All right, page 24. Instance of internal service fund. Property insurance, we'd like to include the property insurance as part of the other insurances. It makes sense. We really don't have very much of a surplus or a deficit in there, but it makes sense to include that as part of the other insurances for year-end cleanup. Well, the other thing I wanted to point out too is at the end of the year, when we do our carryover closeout resolution, in years in which we cannot make those adjustments, we call it a budget overdraft, and we always call that out. And that's one thing that is fixed as part of that resolution at the end of the year, so that when the auditors come in, the books balance. And then we comply with what from an accounting standpoint. Right underneath there, there's just some cleanup language putting in for the transfers of equipment, just to make that more clear. That's what that language in number 9 pertains to. And then on page 25, even though it looks like it's all brand new language, it's not. Section 5 and section 6 was language in 7 and 8. Was all language.
Where's 8?
Oh, there's a.
I mean, is that like in Harry Potter where there's that secret
Yes.
wall?
7.5.
Yeah.
It was hungry, yeah, so 7, 8, 9.
5, 6, 7, and 5, 6, 7, yes. 5, 6, 7, yeah, 6 or 7.
Oh, no.
I'm gonna go.
We're at the end of the week here.
Your wittiness is very much appreciated, Supervisor Nordigan.
Later.
Because I have kids, I understand. Those 3 sections all pertain to language that was embedded in other language. Now it's clear, it's out there separated, and it's again cleanup of language that we use to make sure that we do the accounting adjustments at the end. Section 9 and section 11. Section 11 is just making sure that it's clear that it's effective as of the end of the year, and that it's. Section 9 has to do with just reiterating delegation of authority that the finance director had in a different section. Now it has its own sections. The only other thing that I want to point out that I left out from the previous discussion was in attachment A, when we talked about the wage schedule. That reflects a 2% increase to the minimum, midpoint, and maximum. That is not an across the board. That is an adjustment to each one of those touch points or each pay grade. So when an employee gets on their anniversary date with a successful, what do they call it? Evaluation. I was gonna say appraisal, but an evaluation from their supervisor, they would get 3% of the midpoint. So now the midpoint will be 2% higher. All that is contained in the budget. But we wanted to make sure that it was clear it's not a 2% across the board. It's a 2% adjustment to these wages ranges.
Okay, Supervisor Gearson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move approval of the budget resolution as amended, authorizing the administration to make any minor Scribner adjustments as we, if these or any others that you might see that we didn't notice. So I would make that motion to approve the resolution as this committee amended.
Second.
It's been moved by Supervisor Gearston, seconded by Supervisor Nudo. Any questions or comments? Supervisor Nudo.
Actually, I would like to make a. You guys said it all over. I mean, I would make and
Okay, why did you second the?
actually, I was,
Okay. All right, okay. So there's not a second on the motion. Yeah, well, I mean, we could still proceed. Supervisor Kirby seconded the approval of the
Mhm.
resolution. Now you'll talk on it, which we can.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I got it.
Okay, so I believe everybody's got it at the table. It's, refers to pretty much the committees, subcommittees, more than the committees itself. Back, over 40 years ago, in 1982, the board passed resolution 65, adopting a policy resolution to compensate some individuals serving on, county boards, appointed board commissions. After that, there were some adjustments. However, right now, we have quite a few additional board commissions. And out of all the commissioners, I'm not really sure what the number is, but only about 4 or 5 of those committees that receive compensation. Not the supervisor, but public serving on those committees. So what I would like to do with this, I'm not gonna change the plan. But I would like to direct, I believe finance would have to do that, just to give us, all the committees, how much we're spending on that, with what we have now, and how much it would cost to pay all the committees, because I feel like one committee gets paid, maybe every committee should get the same too. And, to bring it to us and, we're giving them quite a bit of time, I suppose, to do that. By the end of the first quarter, to bring it back to me, and, we can decide, what to do.
Supervisor Gearston.
Mr. Chairman, I understand the gentleman from the 12th, the vice chair of our committee, made a motion to amend the budget resolution that's on the floor per this language we have. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, and I would second that motion. And if I'm at the floor, I would, good comment.
You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. We were talking about this at the Board of Trustees, and when we discussed it, the gentleman from the 12th agreed that to bring this to Corp Council and then bring language back to us that we could review. So thank you for doing that and following up on that. And if I understand the intent of this is to review this. It allows the administration to go through and audit it or review it and bring recommendations back. And then we can review those recommendations and take action or not. It could be an increase, it could be a decrease to per diems. There's many things that we could do, but it basically lets us review this and bring something back, and then we can make a decision on it. I think as our county usually adopts best practices on these things, so we can take that into consideration at the time. But it just directs that this be reviewed, audited, and then brought back for future consideration. If so, through the chair to Corp Council, is my interpretation correct?
It is.
Okay, thank you. So I would support the amendment, and with that, I yield.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the amendment made by Supervisor Nudo, seconded by Supervisor Gearston? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that passes. So now we have a motion on the floor by Supervisor Gearston, seconded by Supervisor Kirby, to approve as amended. Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you. Sure.
Your amended language is in addition to what is in there that talked about the per diems already. And you mentioned first quarter, and what I have in front of me is second quarter.
Those, thought it was first quarter.
And then second.
Says second.
So We just need to make sure we have the proper language and.
When I sent it to you, it said second, so I mean,
Q2 is okay with me
That's
as
Yeah,
a second.
at least it's
No,
getting
no, no,
done.
that's fine. I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure that we're on the same.
All right.
That's fine.
Q2 is what I read.
Moved by Supervisor Donlin to adjourn,
Second.
seconded by,
Mhm.
seconded by Supervisor Nudo.
Is it-
All those in favor?
Aye.